This episode of Monty's Minute is brought to you by Netflix. For a free 30-day trial, head on over to netflix.com/GamebreakerTV. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Monty's Minute, the show where you have questions, he has answers. This is episode number 17 for January 22nd, 2013. I'm Gary Gannon, and you're watching Gamebreaker TV. Of course, joining me, as always, the one, the only Mr. Monty Sharma. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Gary. Good to see you still alive.
I am still alive. You know, it's flu season, and it's brutal, but we're back. Don't catch the flu. Get the flu shot, Monty says.
Yeah, exactly. It's a simple thing.
All right, let's jump right into it this week. So first up from Lucas Mages. Lucas says, do you think it is a good idea to use hype for publicity and deal with the backlash if it does not hold up, or just not say anything till you think you are ready for a release? What do you think?
Yeah, so, you know, this is a question that gets argued about a lot in game development, and you know, there's been a number of games. I won't say a lot. There's been a number of games where you get hype for years, and you know, years into it, and then the game comes out, and sometimes it doesn't match expectations, or the hype has left you wanting something way more than what they produce. Now, there's a few reasons for why this happens. One is you've got to start marketing a title well before it's launched. So if you don't have people ready to sign up for the beta, you don't have reporters following it, you don't have guys like you doing shows about it, you lose a lot of the momentum in the marketing. The second thing that happens, though, is games aren't done till they're done. So sometimes, you know, you go out and it's 2 years before the game's launch, and you're talking about something that looks really good or feels really good, some game mechanic or PvP thing. And then you get to play testing a year later, and somebody says, no, this is no good. We got to pull this. And then, you know, the producer and the marketing people are in front of the media, backpedaling and doing it. So, you know, it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. If you don't make noise, you don't sell as much, you don't get the beta users, so it's tough.
And really, aren't you looking at two different departments within the industry, right? And a good marketing division, you know, they're just set on doing their job, which is marketing. They have nothing to do with making the game. It's up to the other guys in the other building to make the game. And, you know, they're just going to do their best damn job that they can to possibly get it out there and market it correctly to get people interested in it. So it's sort of like, I mean, they have to do this. They have to. They have to. And of course, like you said, the media, we're all just waiting and waiting. I mean, SWTOR was probably the longest media, you know, hype train I've ever seen. I mean, it was over a year, and they had, like, you know, regular updates, and journalists like us, we love that stuff. We're like, wow, every week we can count on something coming out. That's awesome.
But when it launched, you were disappointed the game didn't bring you donuts. I mean, that's the kind of expectation you get.
But well, yeah, but yeah, the flip side, like you said, you can't not do the marketing and then just come out later on and then just have like this awesome game that nobody really knows about and try and build it up from at that point, because that's a disaster. That's
horrible, because at that point in time, all your backers and everybody else is saying this game's a failure. You didn't hit these numbers, and so part of what happens is the marketing team signs up for a certain amount of users in that first 3-week window or month window after launch. So, you know, for an MMO, you know, they're getting for 500,000 to 1 million users right off the bat. And so when you don't have a franchise like Call of Duty and, you know, pre-orders and all that sort of thing, really hard to hit those numbers. And, you know, and that's part of what happened to APB, is they came out the door, they had hyped it up, and the numbers didn't match, and the guys with the money said, we're not going to spend more money on this. It's a good game, but it's not good enough.
All right, next up, this question, and he says, hi, Monty. Before I start with my question, I thought I would say I love your show and enjoy watching it every week. Thank you for watching. He says, now down to the question. I'm currently 29 years old and working as a sales administrator for an engineering company based in the UK. My main job is rather boring, so recently I've been trying to break into the video game industry in the Q&A role. I don't have a background in computer programming and coding. That's why I thought Q&A was the way for me to break into the industry. However, I have pre-registered on a degree course with the Open University in computer programming. Specifically, I just lost my monitor for a second.
No, that's me coughing.
No, that's always nice. It says so this course is the software development and networking course, which may take me 3 to 4 years to complete, depending on how fast I can complete the course while working full time. Do you think this would be a good course for me to study? And secondly, do you think I would be too old to break into the industry at 33 or 34 years old? I appreciate any advice you can give. So, specifically software development and networking.
Yeah. So, I guess there's, excuse me, there's multiple parts to that. One is QA is a good spot to break in, and it's a way to get to know people. If it's going to take you 3-4 years, that's okay because you don't have to be doing nothing related to games during that period of time. And the perfect example is last night I was at this event. It was demo night for Boston Indies. And so there were probably about 60 people in the room, and they had various games in all sorts of different stages. We had some that were paper playables. There were some games that they had really rudimentary block graphics on. They were just trying to get the basics of that nailed. So I'm going to say most of the people there last night had a day job, and were going to school. I talked to 2 guys, and they were PhD students, and they actually had a really good-looking game. And they were PhD students, and they were working away on their thesis, but on the side, they make games. And so if you get involved in a community like that and sort of the indie scene, it might be 3-4 years before you finish your degree, but you'll have been working on games for 3 or 4 years on the side. So, that's a whole different thing.
I feel like there's a trend with you, though, because we get this question a lot, and you time and time again, week after week, I keep hearing the same advice, and I think that some of the best advice you seem to be able to give everyone is they need to get out of their house and get over and meet some people and get into a group with more people who want to do the same thing they want to do.
Yeah, there's lots of us in the world, so find some folks and practice what you do. I mean, game development's one of those rare jobs where you can do it before you're qualified to do it. And if you do it well, no one cares about what your qualifications are.
Now, what about with this question here regarding his age being 33 to 34 years old? Do you think that's going to have a little strike against him?
I was 40 when I got in. There certainly is some ageism at the upper spectrum. So, I wonder when I turn 60, if I'm still alive, will I be able to work in tech in general and sort of start up venture-backed stuff at that point in time, because the industry is somewhat sensitive to age. But that's when you're in your 60s, right? Being in your mid-30s, that's nothing. In fact, it's probably a little bit better because people look at you as being seasoned, having some sense, and being ready to work.
All right, next up, this one says, "Hey, Monty and Squirrel." Not really sure what that means, but I'll go with it. It says, "First off, I want to say thanks for doing this show. I really look forward to your insight each week. As a gamer and someone who works in the business world, I've learned more about the gaming industry from you guys than I have from any other source. So kudos, Mr. Sharma."
I know, it's all you.
Says, I
have nothing.
Says, "I work for a retail company that has a big 18 to 25 demographic. And so our integrated marketing team has decided to embrace a large investment into gamification. I don't know why, but as a gamer, I don't like gamification. I can't really put my finger on why, but it just feels exploitative to some degree. Do you feel like this is just a recent trend or something that will become standard in marketing now that gaming is more socially accepted and mainstream. How do you both feel about gamification? I'll let you start.
Yeah. So first, let's deal with the angst, and then we'll get to the facts. When I hear gamification, yes, the hair on my neck goes up. Everybody in the game sector doesn't like gamification because in some ways they think it cheapens what they do, and that's just the truth. Okay, and you'll get all sorts of arguments at the game developers conferences and things like that about people will talk about gamification and then they'll get ripped. And so part of that, though, we need to separate that from reality. And it may just be a poorly named item. I did a talk once a few weeks ago on 3 things any business can learn from the game sector. Part of that was things that related to gamification. And if you look at that in terms of importance, Gartner says by 2015, 50% of Fortune 500 companies will have embraced gamification. So what does that mean for folks who don't know what gamification is? It's really using some of the tools that are used in game development to motivate behavior of customers rather than players. So if you think about, the concept of levels, of badges, of, all sorts of feedback, that sort of thing motivates players to do things. And I've actually been thinking about writing an article on why I play games I don't like. There's a few games I'm regularly playing, and when I'm playing them, I'm saying, this isn't particularly fun. But what they've done is they've hooked me with their mechanic, and I keep playing it. And I should just delete this. Yeah, but, I got so much into this now, might as well keep going. And that's kind of the concept. So if you think about airline miles, so I used to have a job where I traveled a ton, and they made it really simple. Well, here's how far you have to your gold. Now here's how far you have to your platinum. Constant feedback. Oh, you travel this much. Here's some upgrade certificates, and you're going to be able to fly business class a few times. All of those kinds of things motivated and increased loyalty from frequent flyers to particular airlines. So that's big money. Now, calling it gamification, what upsets people because it's cheapening the word game, which is amusing in itself. But really what they're doing is they're using the engaged behavior models that game developers use and drug dealers to get people to do what they want. And that's really what it is. And if you look at sort of the science of marketing and some of the neuropsychology stuff that's coming down the road, people are just going to get better and better at talking you into doing what they want to do.
We implemented a gamification setup on our site a few months back, and we're kind of still in the midst of working it, trying to understand it and really make a good experience for it. But I like them when they're done well, and there's some really good reason there. But I think what happens is a lot of companies who implement them, they don't really put a whole heck of a lot of thought into how they're doing it. They purely view it as a marketing mechanism that they need to do, but they don't really focus on the user experience and actually is it fun. And that's something that when we implemented it, we kind of put it in beta and we wanted to sort of test it and see how people reacted to it. And then we want to go back to the drawing board and kind of like rework it and stuff. But I think that's the most important thing. I don't know why. I mean, I find it certain websites, like if there's a fun factor to it, like with our site, we cover MMOs. So we're going to have like quests and, levels and, coins and like that. It's just like an added little fun factor thing for me. But I think you're right. I think it's starting to get a bad sort of the phrase itself, gamification, just becomes kind of, it sounds cheap. And I think it's because a lot of companies just don't really understand how to use it. It's actually really interesting when we had a lot of conversations with the company that we're dealing with on it. And it's funny, a lot of the questions that I asked as a gamer, they had never been asked these questions before. And it was interesting because they were like,
game.
Right. Because most of the people that they're dealing with aren't gamers or game companies. They're dealing with like, just like rappers and like, like people who are just like, I need to put this on my site. So when we started looking into it, we were just like, well, you know, we're coming at it from the philosophy of the mentality of a gamer. I think it's got a long way to go, but I think there's potential there. I like being connected, but it's got to be a good experience.
Yeah, but you know, it's the thing that marketers learned. I mean, this was big news back in the 80s, 90s of 80% of your engagement with your customer base comes from 20% of your customers. And you need to find those customers and shower them with love. And that's part of what these loyalty programs are all about. The other thing that, you know, they found, and when I worked at the telco, was a really interesting project, was one of the groups recognized that the bulk of our costs were related to, you know, this 5% of our customer group who were pains in the neck, and they were too expensive to serve. And so, you know, if you think about gamification models, it's like, hey, look, if you're doing the stuff that makes you a good, profitable customer, we're going to give you the love. We're going to give you the power-ups. We're going to give you all this stuff. If you're annoying, you know, we're not going to. And it's just how you have to run a business.
All right, thanks, Jado, for that one. Next up, we from Domangoj. Says, hi, my name is Domangoj Paseli. I am from Croatia. Great show. I wish shows like this and game developing tools like today existed when I was a student. Well, we're trying. He says, I have 7 to 8 years of professional programming experience in C# and .NET. So I made a few games like that with Unity 3D. I am not trying to break into the games industry. I did this just for fun, but for a period of making a game, all I could play was that game I was developing. Same levels over and over, thinking the ways of how to tweak things, getting a whole set of new ideas, and sometimes totally redesigning the gameplay. Believe me, as a longtime gamer, playing your own game is totally different and thrilling in a thrilling game experience. Actually, that's just something I wanted to share with the show. Thanks for sharing. But my question for Monty is, what games do you like to play? Best regards from Croatia. What do you play these days?
We've had Serbia, we've had Croatia. What's up with Montenegro? They don't come,
really.
They don't watch, they don't write.
You don't write, they don't call.
Yeah, it's, you know, there's one thing in, you know, and he talks about making his own game. One of the things game developers will tell you, by the time you're ready to ship your game,
you hate your game.
Hate it. You just hate it because you've played it, and it's like, oh, come on. You know, it was like last summer when we were working on one title. I played through 40 iterations. Every day I was playing through, you know, 20 levels, trying to find out what was different, how was that balanced, did they fix what they were trying to fix that day? It wears you out. But in terms of what I play, I mean, I'm a huge RTS and strategy fan, so I like... you know, right now, probably 1 and 2 are going to be XCOM and Civ 5. Favorite game of all time has got to be Company of Heroes. Just love it. I don't have enough MMO time. So, you know, I maxed out a WoW character back when the cap was 60. I've played all of the MMOs pretty much a certain amount. And actually, I started playing... Lotro a little bit last week, and I kind of feel myself getting back into it. But you know, XCOM, love it. It's my game.
XCOM is a good one this year. It's a really strong game this year. Monty Sharma, follow him on the Twitter at Monster, MONTSTER27. And if you have questions for Monty right here for Monty's Minute, send them over to Monty@Gamebreaker.tv. That's Monty@Gamebreaker.tv. Send your questions in. We love the questions. We'll be back next week for episode number 18. Monty, always a pleasure helping the peeps break into the industry. We're going to change the name from Monty's Minute to How Do I Get a Job?
No, there's more questions. Give us different questions. We'll answer anything.
Thanks, Monty. Have a great week. We'll see you all next week for more Monty's Minute.
See you, Gary.